My name is Dana Reyes. I was 34 years old when my brother crossed a stage in a cap and gown that I paid for. Not symbolically. Not partially. I paid his tuition. $41,600 over 4 years. I wired the money semester by semester, always on time, always without a reminder. The registrar's office at Whitmore University had my bank routing number saved. The financial aid office knew my name. His academic advisor sent me a thank you card after his sophomore year because, she said, students with consistent external support perform measurably better. His name was on the diploma. Mine wasn't on the guest list. I found out about the graduation the way you find out about things that were never meant for you. A photo. Posted at 11:42 on a Saturday morning in May. My brother, Marcus, in his navy gown, arms around my mother and our stepfather, Leonard, in front of the Whitmore fountain. Balloons. Matching corsages. The whole production. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Home Depot in Raleigh, North Carolina, waiting for my husband to come back with caulk and sandpaper. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I screenshotted it, put my phone face down on the passenger seat, and sat there while the engine idled. That photo was the end of a very long story. But to understand why I did what I did next, you need to understand where it started. And it started 16 years earlier, in a 2-bedroom apartment on Prescott Avenue, with a decision my mother made and called love. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is where we share stories about family betrayal, quiet strength, and the moment someone finally says enough. If this story hits close to home, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. Let me tell you about the Reyes family. My mother, Patricia, was a dental hygienist in Greensboro, North Carolina. She made $52,000 a year, worked 4 days a week, and had opinions about everything except the people who mattered most to her. She was generous in theory and selectively blind in practice. The kind of woman who volunteers at food drives and forgets her daughter's birthday 2 years running. My father left when I was 11 and Marcus was 3. He left cleanly, which is to say he left completely. New city, new family, new phone number within 8 months. My mother did not fall apart. She recalibrated. She found Leonard. Leonard Marsh was an HVAC technician with a truck, a boat, and a firm belief that biology was the only valid basis for obligation. He married my mother when I was 14. He liked Marcus, who was 6 and easy to like. He tolerated me, who was 14 and harder. He never said anything cruel. He just aimed his warmth in a very specific direction, and I was slightly out of range. Here is what Leonard and my mother did for Marcus. When Marcus was 16, they bought him a Honda Civic. $4,200 used clean title. They drove it to school themselves and surprised him in the parking lot. I have the memory of standing at the kitchen window watching him jump and hug Leonard and thinking something is being decided right now that nobody told me about. When I was 16, I took the bus. When Marcus needed braces at 17, Leonard paid $3,800 out of pocket because our insurance didn't cover orthodontia. When I needed the same procedure at 15, my mother put it on a payment plan she never finished. I wore a retainer for 3 years that didn't fit correctly. My teeth are still slightly off if you look at the left side. When Marcus applied to college, my mother and Leonard hired a private college counselor at $1,200 for the package. She helped him with essays, application strategy, school selection. He got into 4 schools. Whitmore was the second most expensive. When I applied to college, I sat at the kitchen table with a library book about financial aid and did it alone. I got into UNC Greensboro on a partial merit scholarship and worked 22 hours a week at a campus bookstore to cover the rest. I graduated in 4.5 years with $14,000 in student loans and a degree in accounting that I used immediately and aggressively because I had no other option. My mother's explanation for the difference was simple. You didn't need us. You always figured it out. She said this like it was a compliment. I understood, even at 22, that it was the opposite of one. I moved to Raleigh at 23 for a position at a mid-sized accounting firm. I was good at the work. Methodical, detail-oriented, the kind of person who notices a $47 discrepancy in a 600-line spreadsheet and can't sleep until it's resolved. I made $44,000 my first year. By 28, I was at $71,000. By 30, I was a senior accountant making $89,000 with a 401k I'd been funding since month one. I met my husband, Paul, at 26. He was a high school history teacher. Patient, funny, the kind of person who reads the placard at every museum exhibit and means it. We bought a house in Raleigh at 29 with a 20% down payment I had saved myself. Marcus, meanwhile, graduated high school with a 2.7 GPA and told my mother he wanted to study communications at Whitmore University, a private school 2 hours from Greensboro with tuition of $22,400 a year before room and board. My mother called me in September of the year Marcus turned 18. Dana, I need to talk to you about Marcus's school situation. I knew what was coming before she finished the sentence. Leonard's business had a slow year. She'd had some medical expenses. The financial aid package from Whitmore only covered $6,000 of the annual cost. Room and board brought the total to just over $32,000 a year. They could manage maybe $15,000, but the gap was significant. There was a long pause on the phone. "You've always been so good with money," she said. That sentence did a lot of work. I thought about the Honda Civic in the parking lot. I thought about the college counselor. I thought about the retainer that didn't fit. I thought about the library book on financial aid and the 22 hours a week at the campus bookstore and the $14,000 in loans I'd paid off by myself in 3 years. I said, "How much do you need?" She said, "10,000 a year would make a real difference." I said, "I'll do it, but I want to be involved. I want updates. I want to know he's showing up." She said, Of course, Dana. You're saving his future." I set up the transfer in October. $10,000 per semester, wired directly to the university bursar's office. I sent it every January and every August for 4 years. On time. Without fail. In year 2, I got a tuition increase notice. Whitmore raised rates by 4.3%. I absorbed the difference without being asked. In year 3, Marcus failed 2 courses in the spring semester and had to retake them over the summer. Summer tuition was $4,800. My mother mentioned it on a Sunday call. Casual. Like weather. I paid it. In year 4, Marcus decided to add a minor in sports marketing. An extra semester. 1 more tuition cycle. I paid it. $41,600. Over 4.5 years. Not including the $4,800 summer session. Counting that, the total was $46,400. Marcus called me twice during those 4 years. Once sophomore year to ask if I could Venmo him $200 for a textbook, which I did. Once junior year to tell me he'd gotten an internship at a local sports agency, which was good news I received secondhand, like most news about Marcus. My mother called more often. Mostly to update me on his grades, his social life, his girlfriend of the moment. She spoke about him the way people speak about a fascinating documentary they're watching. Present tense, always present tense. She asked about my life in the way people ask about a project they've delegated. Checking in. Not invested. I told Paul everything. He listened the same way he always did. Fully. Without interruption. When I was done, he asked, "Do you want to keep doing this?" I said, "He's almost done. I'll finish what I started." He nodded and went back to grading papers. That was the thing about Paul. He never told me what to think. He just made sure I knew he was there when I landed somewhere. In February of Marcus's final year, I got the tuition confirmation for the last semester. Paid. Done. 4.5 years. I made a note in my spreadsheet where I tracked the transfers. Wrote final in the cell next to the date. I felt something I couldn't name. Not pride, exactly. Something smaller and quieter. The feeling of a long errand, finally completed. 2 weeks later, I texted Marcus. Something I almost never did. He wasn't big on texting me either. Last semester, almost there. When's graduation? He replied 9 hours later. May 18th. It's going to be a whole thing, lol. May 18th. I noted the date. I did not receive an invitation. Dana just paid the final semester. 4.5 years. $46,400 and not one phone call from Marcus. But what happens when she finds out how the family spent graduation day and who is on the guest list? That's where this story stops being about money and starts being about something much bigger. Stay right here. I gave it 3 weeks. I told myself, invitations take time. The university probably mails them late. Marcus probably assumed I knew I was coming. These are the things you tell yourself when you already know the answer, and you're not ready to look at it directly. On April 9th, I texted my mother. Casual. Light. Has Marcus sent out graduation invites yet? Just want to make sure I get the date blocked. She took 4 hours to respond. Oh, honey, the venue only gives each graduate a certain number of tickets. It's been a whole thing. Marcus had to make some hard choices. I read that twice. Hard choices. I put my phone on the counter and washed the dishes. All of them. Every pot, every pan, the baking dish from Sunday, the cutting board. I scrubbed the sink. I wiped down the stovetop. Paul came into the kitchen 20 minutes later, looked at the counter, looked at me. You okay? Yeah. He poured himself a glass of water and sat at the table. He didn't ask anything else. I dried my hands, picked up the phone, and typed back to my mother. How many tickets did Marcus get? She replied, 8. But with me, Leonard, his girlfriend Kayla, Kayla's parents, and a few of his college friends, it just got complicated. 8 tickets. Kayla's parents had a ticket. I had paid $46,000 and I did not have a ticket. I did not respond. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I'd kept for 4.5 years. Every transfer, every date, every semester, every confirmation number. I had the emails from the bursar's office saved in a folder called Whitmore. 41 files. I printed the full spreadsheet. 6 pages. Then I printed every bursar confirmation email. 41 pages. I put them in a manila folder, labeled it, put it on my desk. Then I made a decision I had been working toward without knowing it for 4.5 years. I sat down and drafted an email to Marcus. Not to my mother, not to Leonard, to Marcus. I didn't send it immediately. I wrote it, saved it as a draft, and left it for 48 hours. Read it again, revised it once, took out 2 sentences that were too sharp, added one that was more precise. The email was 4 paragraphs. It contained the total amount I had paid. It contained the dates. It contained a single question. I understand I wasn't included in the graduation guest list. I'd like to understand why. No capital letters for emphasis. No exclamation points. No CC to my mother. I sent it on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. He opened it. I had read receipts enabled at 11:17 a.m. He did not respond. 3 days passed. Nothing. On Friday, my mother called. Dana, Marcus told me about your email. I think you really hurt him. He felt ambushed. He felt ambushed. I was quiet for a moment. Asked a question, Mom. One question. You brought up the money. That's not fair. He's a kid. He's graduating. He doesn't need that kind of pressure. He's 22, I said. And I didn't bring up the money to pressure him. I brought it up because it's the context. She went quiet. Then, you knew what you were signing up for when you agreed to help. I had not signed up for invisibility. I said, I would like Marcus to call me. She said, I'll mention it. He didn't call. The graduation was May 18th. I sat in the Home Depot parking lot in Raleigh and saw the photo at 11:42 a.m. Marcus in his navy gown. My mother, Leonard, Kayla, Kayla's parents. The Whitmore fountain. 8 people at that fountain. I counted. Not one of them was me. Paul was next to me in the driver's seat. He'd seen my face change. He looked at the photo. His jaw shifted left, the tell I'd learned in 7 years. He was angry, but he held it. He said, What do you want to do? I thought for a long time. I said, I want to be exact. The photo went up at 11:42. Dana hasn't said a word to anyone. But when she finally moves, it's going to be precise, documented, and completely calm. You will not believe what she does next. Don't go anywhere. Paul drove home. I sat in the passenger seat and looked out the window and did the math. $46,400 over 4.5 years. Not one phone call from Marcus.
Not one.
2 texts. One asking for $200. One telling me graduation was going to be a whole thing. 8 tickets. Kayla's parents. 0 for me. We got home at 1:15. I changed out of my weekend clothes, put on the kind of outfit I wear for client presentations, a dark blazer, plain shirt, and sat at my desk. I opened the Whitmore folder. I had everything. I also opened the family group chat, which included me, my mother, Leonard, Marcus, and an aunt in Phoenix who sent memes and didn't read anything else. I scrolled back 18 months. I found what I had half expected. A conversation from November of Marcus's senior year. He and my mother discussing the graduation. Marcus. Kayla's parents are already asking about tickets. Her dad wants to get a hotel early. Mom. Of course. They'll be there. We have 8, and we need everyone. Kayla's family has been so supportive. Marcus. What about Dana? Mom. She lives in Raleigh. It's a long drive. She's so busy. I'm sure she'll understand. Marcus. Yeah, okay. That was it. I'm sure she'll understand. I sat with that for exactly 4 minutes. I know because I looked at the clock when I started reading and again when I stopped. Then I did something I had never done in my adult life. I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. Not to sue anyone. Not yet. I called my friend Mara, who is a family law attorney in Durham. We have lunch twice a year. I trust her completely. I told her the whole thing in 11 minutes. She listened without interrupting. When I was done, she said, "You documented everything?" "Yes." "Then you have options. What do you want?" I said, "I want it acknowledged.
Publicly.
And I want the money conversation on record in writing." She said, "Then write the letter. Send it certified mail. Don't threaten. Just state the facts. If they choose to ignore a certified letter containing this documentation, that tells you everything you need to know about whether a relationship is worth continuing." I wrote the letter that afternoon. 2 pages. Single-spaced. No adjectives. No emotional language. Just dates, amounts, confirmation numbers, and a timeline. It began, "This letter is a formal record of financial contributions made by Dana Reyes toward the undergraduate education of Marcus Reyes at Whitmore University between August 2019 and May 2024. It ended, "I am not requesting repayment at this time. I am requesting acknowledgement and an explanation for my exclusion from the May 18th graduation ceremony. I would welcome a direct conversation with Marcus before May 31st. I printed 2 copies. I signed both. I drove to the post office on a Monday morning and sent 1 copy certified mail to my mother's address and 1 to Marcus's campus address, which was still active for 30 days post-graduation. I did not tell anyone I'd sent them. Not Paul, not Mara, not anyone. I went home, made dinner, and watched a documentary about the Appalachian Trail. The certified mail receipts arrived back in my mailbox 11 days later. Both signed. My mother's signature. And Marcus's, in the loose, looping handwriting of someone who never expected to be held accountable in writing. The family response came fast. My mother called within an hour of the receipt arriving at her address. Her voice was somewhere between tears and accusation, which was the register she used when she needed to seem hurt while causing damage. "You sent us legal mail, Dana." Legal mail. Like we're strangers. It's not legal mail. It's a certified letter. The post office offers the service to anyone. Your brother is devastated. He worked so hard, and now you're making this about money. I made a note on the pad beside my desk. She said, "Your brother is devastated." She did not say, "I'm sorry you weren't there." That distinction mattered. "Mom," I asked for acknowledgement and a conversation. "Has Marcus read the letter?" "He's not going to respond to a formal letter from his own sister. You've humiliated him. I've documented what happened." "That's not humiliation. That's a record." She went quiet. "Then your father left and I kept this family together. I kept Marcus together. I needed help and you helped. That's what family does." "You kept Marcus together," I said. "And I helped. And then I was left out of the most significant day connected to that help."
"I'm not angry, Mom. I just want to understand why."
She hung up. Marcus texted me 20 minutes later. It was the third time he had texted me in 4.5 years. Dana, I didn't think you'd want to come. It's a long drive. You're always working. I didn't think it was a big deal. I stared at that text for a while. He didn't think it was a big deal. I typed back one line. It was a big deal to me. He didn't reply. Aunt Rosa in Phoenix, the meme sender, sent me a private message that night. She'd apparently gotten a call from my mother. Honey, is it true you sent a legal letter to your brother about money? On his graduation day? The letter arrived after the graduation, I said. And it wasn't about money. It was about being included. She sent a praying hands emoji and went quiet. The family group chat, however, did not go quiet. My mother posted a photo of the certified letter envelope, not the contents, just the envelope with the official postal stickers with the caption, "Hard week. Praying for family unity." 14 relatives liked it. No one had all the information. They had the image of a certified letter. They had my mother's framing. That was enough for most of them. I took a screenshot of the post, added it to the folder. Leonard called on a Wednesday. He'd never called me directly in 20 years. His voice was flat, controlled the way it always was. You want to get paid back? Is that what this is?
No, I said.
I never asked for repayment. It's in the letter. Then what do you want? I told you in the letter. An acknowledgement and a conversation. He made it sound like air leaving a tire. You can't put a price on family, Dana. I didn't put a price on family, I said. I put a price on a college education. That price was $46,400. Family is what I expected in return. He hung up. I wrote down the time, 6:43 p.m. Added it to the file. 3 weeks after I sent the letters, Marcus started a new job at a sports marketing firm in Charlotte. My mother announced it in the group chat with 3 trophy emojis and a graduation cap. 22 relatives liked it. 4 commented congratulations. I did not react. That same week, I received one email from Marcus. No subject line. The email was 8 sentences. It said he was sorry I felt left out. It said the ticket situation was stressful for everyone. It said Kayla's parents had been really present during his 4 years, and it felt right to include them. It said he hoped we could move forward. He did not say, I should have found a way to get you a ticket. He did not say, what you did for me mattered. He said, I hope we can move forward. I read it twice. Then I filed it in the Whitmore folder. And then I did the thing I had decided on the day I sat in the Home Depot parking lot. I opened the family group chat. I typed a message.
Calm.
Factual. No exclamation points, no italics, no emotional appeals. I said, I want to share something with the family, so everyone has the full picture. Over the past 4.5 years, I funded Marcus's undergraduate education at Whitmore University. The total I contributed was $46,400, wired directly to the bursar's office each semester. I did this because I was asked and because I believed in Marcus's future. I was not included in his graduation ceremony in May. I sent a certified letter requesting acknowledgement and a direct conversation. I have not received either. I am not asking anyone to take sides. I am asking for the family to understand the full context of what has happened. That's all. I attached a single document, a 2-page summary with dates, amounts, and the confirmation email headers. No full account details, just enough to be undeniable. I pressed send at 8:14 p.m. on a Thursday. Then I put my phone in the kitchen drawer and made tea. The morning after I sent the family group chat message, I woke up at 6:47 a.m. to 34 unread notifications. I made coffee first. Paul was already up, sitting at the table with his reading glasses on, newspaper open. He looked at me over the rims. How do you feel? Like I slept well for the first time in 6 weeks. He nodded and went back to the paper. I sat down with my coffee and opened the notifications. My mother had replied within 4 minutes. This is private family business. Dana, please take this down. Leonard. Bad move, Dana. Aunt Rosa. Oh my goodness. A cousin named Derek in Atlanta, who I had not spoken to in 11 years. Wait, she paid for all of it. Another cousin. I had no idea. That's a lot of money. Then Marcus. He had typed and deleted several times. I could see the typing bubbles appear and disappear in real time, and finally sent one sentence. "You really did this?" I typed back, "Yes." He didn't respond. My mother called at 7:22 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:31. I let that one go too. At 7:45, she left a message. Her voice was tight, thin, the voice of someone choosing words very carefully. "Dana, you have embarrassed this family in front of everyone. Whatever grievance you have, this was not the way. Call me back." I did not call back. At 9:15 a.m., my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. North Carolina area code, Greensboro prefix. I answered. It was my Aunt Carmen, my father's sister, the one relative who had stayed loosely in touch with me since my father left, who sent birthday cards and occasionally called to check in, who had always occupied the quiet periphery of my life without making demands.
"Dana," she said.
I saw the group chat. "I want you to know that I've known something was off in that family for a long time. I'm sorry it took this to come out." I held the phone and stood in the kitchen and looked out the window at the backyard where our neighbor's dog was sniffing along the fence. "Thank you, Carmen," I said. She said, "You did a big thing for that boy. He should know what it cost you." I said, "He knows the dollar amount now." She said, "I meant the other cost." We were quiet for a moment. She said, "Call me sometime. Not about this. Just call." I said I would. That afternoon, Marcus drove to Raleigh. I know because Paul saw his car pull up from the front window. He came into the kitchen. Marcus is outside. I dried my hands and walked to the front door and opened it before Marcus could knock. He stood on the porch in jeans and a Whitmore hoodie, for years newer than the one he'd worn when I visited campus once, junior year, for 38 minutes over coffee. His hands were in his pockets. He looked younger than 22 and older than I expected at the same time. He said, "Can I come in?" I said, "Yes." We sat at the kitchen table. Paul brought 2 glasses of water and went to the backyard. That was Paul. Marcus looked at the table for a long time. Then he looked up. "I didn't think about it that way," he said. "Okay. I knew you paid. But it was just how things worked. You were the one who had money." Mom asked. "You said yes." I didn't think about what it meant that you were doing it. I let that settle. I said, "I have a spreadsheet, Marcus. 4.5 years, every transfer. Do you want to see it?" He shook his head slowly.
"No."
"I believe you. Do you understand why I sent the letter?"
"Yeah."
He exhaled. "Yeah, I do. What are you going to do with that?" He was quiet for a long time. His hands came out of his pockets and folded on the table. He had my mother's hands, I noticed. Long fingers. A small scar on the left knuckle from a bike accident when he was 7. "I should have given you a ticket," he said. "It was wrong. I told myself you'd understand. That you're always busy. That it was a long drive. I told myself a lot of things."
"Yes."
None of them were true.
"No."
He looked at me. The thing on his face was not quite an apology. It was something earlier than that. Recognition, maybe. The moment before a person decides who they want to be.
"I don't know how to fix this," he said.
I said, "You start by understanding it."
"You've done that today."
"That counts." He nodded. His jaw was tight. He was working hard not to let anything crack, which I recognized because I had been doing it my whole life and it had cost me an enormous amount. I said, "I'm not asking you to pay me back. I never was. What are you asking for?" I thought about Aunt Carmen's words. "The other cost." I said, "I'm asking you to show up. Not with money. Just show up. When it matters." He said, "I will." He meant it. I could tell because he didn't say it easily. He said it like a person laying something heavy down. He left an hour later. Paul came in from the backyard, brushing grass off his knees. "How'd it go?" I sat back down at the kitchen table and looked at the 2 glasses of water, both barely touched. It was a start. He sat across from me. That's enough. We sat there for a while. The kitchen clock ticked. The Scotty, our cat, walked across the counter and sat on the fruit bowl. Normal things. Quiet things. That evening, I opened the family group chat. I typed one final message. "Marcus and I spoke today. We're working through it.
I've said what needed to be said.
I won't be posting further in this chat about this matter. Thank you to those who reached out privately. Aunt Rosa sent a heart. Cousin Derek sent a thumbs up. My mother said nothing. Leonard said nothing. That was fine. A week later, I removed myself from the family group chat. Not in anger. Just because I'd said what I needed to say, and the channel had served its purpose. I told my mother separately, in a brief phone call, that I was willing to continue our relationship, but that certain conversations were finished. She listened. She didn't agree or disagree. She said she needed time. I said, take all the time you need. I enrolled in a financial literacy workshop series the following month, one I'd been meaning to teach through my firm's community outreach program. I taught 6 sessions to young adults between 18 and 25 about how to build credit, manage loans, and think about money as a tool, not a measure of love. The last session ended with one of the participants asking, "What's the most important financial decision you ever made?" I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about the 41 emails in the Whitmore folder. I thought about the $46,400 and the 4.5 years and the photo at the fountain and the kitchen table in Raleigh and Marcus's hands folded in front of him. I said, deciding what I owed to myself after I'd spent a long time paying other people's debts.
They wrote it down.
People will call you cold for sending a certified letter to your own family. They'll say you made graduation about money, that you weaponized generosity, that you should have just let it go, moved on, kept the peace. But here's what I know, sitting at the other side of it. Letting it go wasn't an option, because it had already been let go for 16 years. The car I didn't get. The braces on a payment plan that was never finished. The scholarship applications I filled out alone at a kitchen table while my mother hired a college counselor for Marcus. Every time I figured it out myself, they counted on me to keep figuring it out, including the $46,400. What I had finally decided was simple. Generosity is a gift. It is not a prepayment for your own erasure. If you are the one who always figures it out, who always shows up, who always sends the money, you are allowed to ask for the same in return. Not as a transaction, just as the baseline of being known. That's not cruelty. That's not revenge. That's just finally deciding that your presence matters as much as your payment. That's my story. $46,000, one certified letter, and a kitchen table conversation that started something neither of us had expected. If this reminded you that what you give deserves to be seen, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.